You can walk in and meet the manager that's looking at your credit card application. They have 50K waiting for you if you can qualify for it. They can pull from multiple different credit bureaus. That's going to change based on your location, based on credit card product, based on time. These banks and credit unions don't stay stagnant. A person got approved for a $20,000 starting limit. About 80+% of those applications go through that system, that algorithm.
Hey, what's going on, guys? Calvin Russell here. Super excited about this special guest. He's been on our show for quite some time. We had to bring him back, okay? And I don't want to take too much away from his time, so let's get right into it.
Calvin, thank you so much for having me back.
Absolutely, man. I think this is a great topic for a lot of people. So, guys, get your notepads out as Cal's going to break down 3 credit unions that guarantee your credit limit, okay? Now, we know that things change all the time, but this is recent information that he wanted to make sure that he got to you guys, okay? So without any further ado, Cal, I'll let you take it over from here.
The first credit union is Patelco. And so they're based over in California. So they have the Patelco Points Rewards MasterCard. That card earns 2x points on gas and grocery purchases and 1 point per dollar on all of the purchases. All right. So they have an introductory bonus offer for 20,000 points worth $200 with that card. And that's when you spend $1,500 in the first 3 months.
Wow.
Now, one cool thing about Patelco is it's one of the credit unions that shows you the top credit limit available on that card. And that's going to be $50,000. So they let you know up front before you even get in the door, before you even apply, that they have 50K waiting for you if you can qualify for it. Wow. So I like to see that. And they pull from Experian. Typically, and see, a lot of people don't understand that even inside of the same bank or the same credit union, they can pull from multiple different credit bureaus. And so you really have to look at a large amount of data points to see what people are typically getting the hard credit pulls from. But what we're seeing is that it's from Experian. And you have to know that that's going to change based on your location. They can switch it up based on location, based on credit card product, based on time. These banks and credit unions don't stay stagnant. They can change over time. They can change their behavior and their system. So that is something that can change.
Let's talk. I want to ask a couple questions about that. So now, with the name of this credit union, what's the name of the credit union again?
Patelco Credit Union.
Patelco. Okay.
Yep.
All right. So now, with this particular credit union, just to make sure the audience gets this right, I want to make sure we spell that right. So how do you spell that?
That's Patelco.
Oh, Patelco. All one word?
Yes, sir.
Got it. Okay. So you guys see right there on the screen, guys, it says Patelco, and then we'll go ahead and put that credit union there. So, Cal, to the best of your knowledge, I wanted to, go with this and start with this. To the best of your knowledge, do you certain state, or is it online, or how does that work?
Yeah, so this is one of the few credit unions that's available nationwide as long as you join a certain nonprofit organization. That nonprofit is the Financial Fitness Association. And so they'll actually waive the first year's fee for you. So Patelco will foot the bill for you to join that nonprofit. Every credit union does not function this way. It's kind of hard to find these, but this is one that's available nationwide as we speak. Now, we can see that change. Often we saw that with FMBO. They were available nationwide at some point, but then they became what they call Geor Restricted over the last year or so.
Yeah.
And so you can only get into FMBO, for example, if you're in like 8 or so states.
Now, in your opinion, why do you think you start doing that? Because doesn't it make more sense? Not but obviously open it up to allow more people in. What's your take on that?
Wow. I've given it some thought. I think I would attribute it to appetite for lending. A lot of people don't talk about this. Banks have a certain appetite that can change based on management, their initiatives for that year. That could change based on their performance for the previous, quarter or year. If they're underperforming and they want to lend more and make more money, then they're going to be more aggressive out in the market and try to push for to change that and become nationwide. I would attribute it to that.
Okay. Gotcha. Okay. Perfect. All right. So now we got the first credit union. That's Patelco. And you said the limit on that was that 12,000? Not the 50,000, because you got to qualify for that. But what's the one that the amount that you say that they would more than likely guarantee?
So I believe with this card, some cards will guarantee at least a $5,000 limit.
Okay.
I'm not sure where that starts at, but
Okay.
but one thing I want you to understand is that usually when you get to a credit union landing page for a credit card, it's going to say either check your rate or see my rate. That's a
Mm,
really good sign that it's a card that will show you your starting limit before approval. So they're
wow.
basically going to do a soft pull usually and pre-approve you for the limit.
Got it.
Another thing you should know is that with credit unions, you may need documentation based on your credit
Yeah.
profile. You
Yeah.
might need to submit pay stubs. You might need a W-2. It really is going to be dependent on your personal, case. So what we call in the credit community is your mileage may vary.
Gotcha.
But be prepared for that, proving your income, especially with credit unions. They are relationship based. We'll talk about that more going forward.
Gotcha. Okay, perfect. Let's go ahead and swing on to the second credit union that
Okay.
guarantees your credit union, your credit limit. Who's that?
Mhm. That is Dover Federal Credit Union. They are
Mm,
based in Delaware,
okay.
and they have a 2% cashback card on all purchases, which is my favorite. I think this is probably my favorite credit union card just because I'm really big on catch-all cards. I love the set it and forget it and just have a one and done card.
Okay.
I'm really simple. I'm not like into travel. I just want to get cash back. And
Gotcha.
so they do have limits that go up to 25,000 from data points. They do
Okay.
pull from Experian, so you got to remember that. And you can join by signing up for their nonprofit, which is the Friends of Bombay Hook Wildlife. I know that's a mouthful, and that costs $15 to get into that nonprofit. I've seen from previous data points that people have gotten approved for $20,000 starting limits, and that
Wow.
really brings to mind. And we can go over the major differences between
Yeah.
credit unions and large commercial banks like Chase. But
Yeah.
one of the big ones is that they will approve you for high starting limits, even when you have lower stated income.
Mm,
That's
wow.
something that's really promising about credit unions.
I've heard a little bit about Dover Credit Union, and I think it goes right into what you was just about to mention. Let's go deeper into that really, because people have what I call drive-by banks, right? They have accounts with these drive-by banks that you can drive by, essentially. So, Chase Bank, PNC, Fifth Third, the list goes on. And why is it, in your opinion, do you feel that credit unions are just so, I won't say easily willing, but more willing to give a higher limit credit card
Mhm,
as opposed to a bank that's seen all of our direct deposits? We've got
mhm.
a checkings with them, we got a savings with them. Sometimes we have a credit card with them. Why is that, do you think?
Yeah, that they're willing to give
Yeah.
higher limits. Yeah, I would say that I would go back to relationship banking.
Okay.
They usually do their own underwriting, and so they're locally based. They're, tapped into the community. You can walk in and meet the manager that's looking at your credit card application,
Right.
and they're getting a better, deeper look into you. I think with the large commercial banks, it's more systematized, and
Mm,
they go by like automated processes,
yeah.
algorithmic processes that they lean on heavily, and
Yeah.
so you have to fit into their particular buckets. And if the computer deems you ineligible or unqualified,
Yeah.
then they'll either deny you, reject you, and they just make it tougher, I think, from that standpoint, because with the credit union, you can have a personal relationship with them. They do their own underwriting. Yeah.
Wow. Got you. Got you. And like you said, you're able to not only build that relationship right there on the spot, but you can see the people. You can ask
Mhm.
questions.
Yeah.
And, versus like you said, with a lot of these commercial, banks processes, everything's automated. It's like because it's thousands of people that are
Mhm.
applying.
Yeah, tens of
Everything.
thousands.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got a point there. You got
Yeah.
a point.
Yeah.
And that's another thing too. And I want to show a clip of that as well too. You mentioned that you had it was a video essentially, but you mentioned that you were able to see what a credit card
Credit card
underwriter.
company underwriters share years worth of advice and insights into how a large credit card issuer approves and denies applications and how they hand out large credit limits. If an applicant puts retired or unemployed as their employment status, curious to your thoughts if it's an automatic denial or not. They go on to say it's not an automatic denial if the applicant has retirement income like investments or a pension. Even younger unemployed people can have income such as collecting disability or getting student loans. Still, I don't see why anyone who is younger should admit he's unemployed when applying for a credit card. That's just being way too honest. So I would say, even though these questions do work on the honor system on the applications, I'm still surprised they're so relaxed about telling a small lie here. Now, here's a big question. How do you know if the income I gave is accurate? And he says, we don't. We know stated income is usually exaggerated, but your credit report can suggest whether your stated income is believable. Whether we believe it might influence our underwriting decision though. For example, if you claim to make $250,000 per year, but just took out a tiny auto loan for $14,000 over a 7-year term, that'll make us question your stated income. Our underwriting notes on your file might read something like 250K year income versus 14K 7-year auto loan. Decline. So the next question is, if I have a bunch of unused credit cards, do you prefer to see them closed? They went on to say, from an underwriting standpoint, there's no reason to close unused accounts, especially if you've had them for a long time. We like to see accounts with long tenures.
What's some quick advice that you have? I know this is on the spot because I just thought about this.
Yeah.
But you did a video and you talked about how a credit card underwriter was essentially giving advice on was it credit limits or specifically what credit card companies are looking for to give certain limits or approvals?
Yeah. Yeah, they're both. They
Okay.
were giving advice on, how to get higher credit limits, what banks look for during the approval process,
Okay.
and in general. And I think some things that come to mind would be that about 80+%
Mhm.
of those applications go through that system, that algorithm that I
Mhm.
spoke of earlier. And the only time that it goes to human being, a physical person,
Yeah.
is when there is some sort of circumstance, some sort of complication that arises. Maybe you check the box for a balance transfer, or you wanted to add an authorized user that it requires a little bit of a closer look. Maybe it raises a flag, so it requires them to look deeper into your situation. And also,
Yeah.
they were trained by their management. He was said that they were trained by their management to basically look at all the
Mhm.
positives of that person's behavior and credit profile, and
Mhm.
then weigh it against the negatives. And so there was no absolute formula, but more of a case by case.
Yeah.
They had a feeling, if you will, for how they were going to grade that person.
That's good to know. That's good to know. And guys, don't worry, we'll show you a clip of that, as well, so you guys can see, what that's all about. Because that's the thing is that people don't necessarily are not necessarily trying to always look for the secret, always look for the hack. People want to do things the right way. They just want to know, are these because nobody wants to waste a hard inquiry if they don't have to, especially if it's going to
Mhm.
be a hard inquiry. So, but okay, cool.
Yeah,
Let's go and
yeah.
swing over to the third credit union that guarantees
Okay.
your limit.
Absolutely. That's going to be Nassau Federal Credit Union. And they offer a Visa Platinum card with a flat 1.5% cash back, which is, very average, maybe below
Okay.
average earnings rate. But they do have a pre-approval process that limits go up to 25,000,
Wow.
and they pull from Experian as well. Now, I just want to be real quick. I know that it seems like every credit card company and credit union pulls from Experian, but there are plenty of others that pull, like Equifax and TransUnion. So don't be worried about that.
How about
You
that?
can be eligible nationwide if you sign up for the National Space Society
Mm.
nonprofit. And I saw a data point recently that a person got approved for a $20,000 starting limit with just an $87,000 income.
Wow.
And what makes that so powerful is that typically a credit card company is going to look to lend 10 to 15% if you're a business, it'll be your revenue, yearly revenue. If
Yeah.
you're on the personal side, it'll be your yearly income.
Okay.
So that person should have only been approved for 10 to, less than that actually, because
Yeah.
it's not even 100K.
Mm.
So they really overperformed here. And it's because it's a credit union, and that's an amazing starting limit.
It is. Real quick, how do you spell it? Is that NASA?
Correct.
Perfect. Okay. I know okay. I want to put that up there so you guys that are taking notes. So that's the third credit union that guarantees your credit limit is NASA Credit Union. Okay.
Mhm.
So now let's swing back to that. So now, to the best of your knowledge, what do you have to do in order to be a part of this credit union? Do you have to be locally? Do you have to have,
Mhm.
because it seems like this is now, you mentioned not only credit unions that allow you to join if you join a nonprofit, which is, man, that's an easy way to to join.
Mhm.
But what is the process with now?
Yeah, just like I said, with if you join the NASA Space Society
Yeah.
nonprofit, you can get in there nationwide.
Mm.
So even though I I live in North Carolina, I could still join a Nassau Federal Credit Union from here.
Wow.
And I'm not sure. I think they're based in the DMV area, I
Okay.
believe. But
Which you're now close to.
yeah, oh yeah. Yep,
Yeah.
still on the East Coast.
Yeah.
They have a pre-approval process. Now, Nassau, from data
Yeah.
points that I've seen,
Yeah.
they do typically require a little bit more extensive of a process. So they are going to require the W-2s or the pay stubs, and it may take, 1 or 2 weeks. I've seen people kind of complain about that. But after they've actually gone through the process, they were approved for the starting limit 9 times out of 10. And, with credit unions, this process can be a bit of a labor, but it
Yeah.
does end up being worth it, I feel, for most people.
Yeah, no, you know what? Because, I've done some videos on various banks and credit unions. And one of the things that really irritate people, because when you're watching a YouTube video, at minimum, you assume that if you're watching it, from American people, it's going to probably serve all American people or nationwide. And not trying to bring too much into it, but what I'm trying to say is if I'm talking about a bank, obviously we want to learn about the bank, but it's difficult when a person lives in a state and it's almost like, well, that bank wouldn't benefit me because I wouldn't meet the criteria. But what's so great
Mhm.
about all of these credit unions that you just mentioned is that, if you just follow their processes, then you'll be able to have, a similar result. Because, for example, everyone always talks about Navy Federal, Penn Fed, the regulars. But everyone doesn't want to necessarily go through that process to be with them, especially because, the pros and cons and them being in the news and all the rest of this stuff. But what I love
Mhm.
about it is that these are places that the average person can easily just join and become a part of.
And can I say one thing real quick? I just wanted
Sure.
to talk about the differences between large banks like Bank of America and
Yeah.
credit unions. I had a few on this list. One thing is that they're more relationship based. So
Mm,
they are going to really cherish if you open up a checking account,
yeah.
if you open up a savings account, a CD, they're going to look at those data points and they're going to be able to raise your internal score
Mm,
using those data points. They love that. They're less inquiry sensitive. So
mm,
oftentimes we found that with the Chases of the world that have the 524 rule. Well,
mm,
that doesn't really happen with credit unions. You can still
right.
apply and get approved. There's a lot of
Mm,
lot of data points on that. They require more docs just on the personal side. I've seen on the business side with credit unions, you can find plenty of no doc business, credit cards and business lines of credit. And so a lot of them are geo restricted. We talked about that. The few credit unions that I did list are not, but just remember that they tend to show the highest credit limit. With the big banks, you have to guess. It's all guesswork. It's all, hey, I was able
it
to
is.
get this limit, but they'll never tell you on the phone. But these credit unions will tell you right on the website oftentimes.
Wow.
You get higher starting limits. We see people starting out with $20,000 limits. That's unheard of for these larger banks. Typically, you'll only get those high starting limits with like a Venture X card or a really high end travel card.
Mm,
So you don't have to worry about that. And then higher credit limit increases. You spoke about Navy Fed. Right now,
yeah.
Navy Fed is offering $8,000 increases at a clip. So even if you start
Mhm.
at a 10K credit limit, you can go right up to an $18,000 credit limit. That's what a lot of people are seeing.
Hold up. Hold up. That was a hidden gem. Okay, so now break that down. Okay, so now you said Navy Federal is giving an $8,000. Explain that to us.
Yeah, so people have found is that Navy Federal has an internal system. It's
Yeah.
like a standardized system where the maximum credit limit increase they will give is $8,000. I believe this is still the case. It was
Gotcha.
for a good while. And so your standard procedure should be anytime you request a Navy Federal credit limit increase, just at least request 8,000 more than what
Mm,
you currently have because you don't want to leave any money on the table.
that's
You don't
right.
want to ask for 5, they're just going to give you 5. You want to
That's
ask for at
right.
least 8 and get the max.
Man, come on now. Cal said,
Get the
"Let's."
max.
But you know what? That makes sense. But you know
Mhm.
what? People don't know that. They don't know that, and you just because that is essentially what seems to be like the average. Well, I won't say average, but the limit that they have that's available is about an average of 8,000. A person may ask for 2-3 grand, so and not
Mhm.
even know that they could have, like you said, don't no one wants to leave that money on the table. So that's huge. That's
Mhm.
huge.
Yeah,
Okay. So you're just saying that this is just asking Navy Federal for a credit limit increase in general is what they do, is what that 8,000 comes into play.
correct. Yes, that's
Gotcha.
what we
Okay.
see.
Got
And
it.
yeah, I always say you want to ask for the moon, you may receive it. Just may receive it.
That's
So
right.
ask for
That's
more
right.
than what you think is possible. And then lower fees like cash advance fees, late
Mm,
fees, lower APRs. We find that with credit unions, they'll cut those fees in half.
yeah.
Sometimes they'll just completely remove the fee. So like with the cash advance fee with like PSECU, we've seen that they have $0 cash advance fee. And
Mhm.
then the APRs can go into the single digits sometimes for their low APR cards, where right now I believe that the standard APR on a credit card is like 25% or something like that. It's
Mhm.
pretty high right now. They also have more personal products. So like personal lines of credit, pledge loans. These are things that the national banks typically don't have. The personal lines of credit seem to be going away, but you can still find them with credit unions. They have much better customer service. I mean, it's not even close. There's a
Mm.
credit union I was
Right.
working with called Sky One out in California, and I
Mhm.
remember going to their website page, and the customer service agent, a live customer service rep, messaged me within like 30 seconds. I was like, wow, this
Wow.
is. I thought it was like automated, but it was actual person, which was nice.
Wow. Yeah.
And yep. And then also, like we mentioned earlier, you get access to the higher up. So you can actually walk into these banks or call into the bank and ask to speak to a manager a decision making manager that's going to have their hands on your application, that's going to be able to push it through if you make your case to them.
That's huge, man. You know what? The only other like place that I could think of that does something like that would be like a hotel. When you stay at a hotel, the first thing that they do, they not the first thing, but usually within at least within day one, you get a random text message. Even if it is automated, then you respond, someone else is like a real person then takes over, from that point, you're talking concierge service. So compared to a bigger bank, and you know what? Because there are so many people, you're just a number there, and that's the unfortunate part. You feel like that, and even when like I just did a video recently about how so many banks are closing branches and things of that sort, and so you went from dealing with horrible customer service, and then now you can't even be serviced for those people who need to have that, because some people can just do everything online. But like you said, with that credit union feel, you get that. I mean, you really can't get that anywhere else. Man, that's huge. All right. What else you got on that? Or does that wrap that up?
That's it. That's it on that.
Okay. Gotcha. Okay, perfect. All right. So now let's go into another piece, because you mentioned something huge, and that was asking for the moon, or essentially asking for more. Lately, you've been helping people, get in position, just have what they need to have in place for business funding. We know people watch the videos, and sometimes the person that's doing the video may skip an important step. But what you're doing is making sure that you're helping people get the business credit profile that they need to have in order to qualify for different types of funding. Which, by the way, guys, if you guys want to follow along on what Cal is going to be talking about, you guys can go ahead and learn more about his course there. Right up, right next to Cal is a QR code. You guys can scan that code to learn more about what he's about to go into. This is just a quick piece, of this. But Cal, exactly what does that mean? Or how are you helping people find their small business without having to have any sales revenue?
Yeah, and just to speak to the sales revenue, I found that the number one thing holding people back is from getting funding is
Mm,
not having any revenue. And so they don't
mm,
have high enough sales to get that business line of credit or to get
right.
that business loan. That's the number one thing. So they just
Okay.
haven't expanded, they haven't scaled their business up to a point where they're making sufficient income or revenue. And
Yeah.
so I just created a process to get somebody from a point where they have $0 in business funding to
Yeah.
at least 50 plus $1,000 in business funding in
Mm,
less than 30 days. All
wow.
you Yeah, in less than 30 days. And you can do this very quickly
Mhm.
if you follow the system and you have at least a 680, 700 credit score, preferably in the, higher 700s. It's going to be even easier. But
Gotcha.
the minimum you need is 680. It basically goes like this. You're going to go from building up your personal credit, formalizing and establishing your business entity. You're going to go to basically putting your business in the best light, presenting it well so that it's fundable. Establish
Yeah.
banking relationships with different lenders in your area and also nationwide. Then you can build up your business credit profile so that you become even more. Your Not only is your personal credit profile fundable, but also your business
Yeah.
profile is fundable. And then you can build out your own custom funding sequence so that you can quickly basically stack those business credit cards
Mm,
in a very particular way, so that you can quickly accumulate business credit within that 30-day period.
wow.
And then also there's a bonus feature that I put into this workshop, which
Mhm.
is how to get unlimited funding, how to create your own list of go-to banks and lenders that you can work with going forward and
Wow.
on a whim.
Wow, man, the fact that they are able to even not just learn that much, but you're saying that they could essentially compile their own list, people that they could try to
Yeah,
go through,
yeah,
for funding. Man, that's
yeah.
huge.
You don't need me. You can do it yourself. You know.
Okay. Wow.
Yep.
That's what's up. That's what's
Mhm.
up, man. Anything else that they need to know about that process?
Yeah, so I'm gonna go into detail real quick about the personal qualifications. Now, I
Let's do
talked
it.
about, yeah, I talked about you need at least a 680, but preferably you want to get to 720 and above to have the best odds and chances for applying for business credit.
Okay.
You want to have those scores, those FICO scores, consistent across all credit bureaus, and then you want to have no derogatory marks on your credit, especially in the last 2 years. You want to have limited new credit inquiries. So here's a little piece. What we found is that for the national banks, credit inquiries are a big sensitivity for those national banks. So you need 3 year or less in the last 6 months.
Mm.
But if you're dealing with credit unions, you only need to look at a 60-day period. So you only need that 3 or less in a 60-day period for the credit unions, not the 6 months. You want to have your utilization very low, so below 10%. A lot of people online talk about having, utilization below 30, but
Yeah.
that's definitely not ideal. I don't know why.
Mm.
That's one of the biggest myths and misnomers that keeps getting updated with every article post. But you want to
Wow.
be in the single digits.
Yeah.
I actually just released a video about with 4 different FICO scoring managers,
Mm.
and they gave insights and tidbits on the FICO scoring model and how it's calculated. But the a FICO score high achiever on average has a 7% utilization rate,
Mhm.
and you definitely want to keep it as low as possible. Then you want to have no late payments in the past 24 months. That's payment history is 35% of your credit score, and it's the most important factor. So you got to have on-time payments. You want to have few new accounts in a short period. So that's what we call credit seeking. So they want to see that you apply for things. And
Mm.
that kind of goes back to credit inquiries. You just don't want to be signing up for random cards and
Right.
uh, in a very fast pace. And then one thing that a lot of people overlook is you want to have personal bank issued. So pay very close attention to that.
Yeah.
You want bank issued, so not store cards, bank issued. So from Chase, Bank of America, Wells Fargo, those cards need to have limits of $2,500 or more,
Mm.
preferably 10,000 or more. Because
Mm.
when you're trying to go for business funding, they're really going to look at the credit limits on your personal cards.
Yeah.
They're going to look at your yearly business revenue to really determine the limit that they want to extend to you. Yeah. So
Gotcha.
that's for personal qualifications.
Okay. Okay.
Yep.
And you said there was bank issued credit cards is what you were just mentioning, correct?
That's right.
Got it. Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Got it.
Yeah, a lot of people have these store cards from like Sam's or Walmart
Yeah.
or Amazon. Those really don't count. They don't look at those favorably. They're
Yeah.
not even put into the calculation for these lenders.
Wow.
Yep,
Gotcha. Okay.
yep.
All right. What okay, so all right, and is that all that they need then as far as personal qualifications so far?
Yeah, for the most
Okay.
part, I do discuss in the workshop about some strategies to lower utilization that people don't typically talk about, and strategies to increase the credit score very quickly that doesn't get a lot of light on YouTube. So I just kind of try to solve all those problems, those little mini problems that people
Yeah.
have at each step.
That's huge. Okay, perfect, perfect. Well, listen, guys, if you want more information on this, you want to put yourself in position. There's a lot of business funding available for your business, especially if you don't have a ton of revenue. Cal just confirmed that, but there are some things you have to have in place. He just gave you guys the short list, but there again, you need to dive deeper into this and make sure that you're positioning yourself to not only win in 2024, but to make sure that your business qualifies for this funding that's out here and available. So again, the QR code is right next to Cal's head. You guys can scan that if you're watching this on your TV. We'll put the link in the description below as well too, if you guys want to learn more about that as well. So, man, Cal, we greatly appreciate you being here. Again, just sharing and dropping nuggets per usual. And is there anything else that you want to leave with everyone before we wrap up?
I would say that you can do it yourself. I think that with
Yeah.
business funding, there's a lot of talk and discussion about having somebody else kind of
Mm.
take your personal credit and
Yeah.
run the play for you.
Mm.
Hiring somebody, they're going to charge you probably $4,000 or $5,000.
All day long. For
Yep,
real.
they're gonna charge you a bag to get a bag, right?
Yeah.
And so you have the ability and wherewithal to do it yourself. You
Mm.
can learn this stuff for yourself fairly quickly. I'm saying within 60 minutes, you can learn
Wow.
enough to put yourself in position so that you can always fund yourself. Someone said that if you have good personal credit, you'll
Yeah.
always be able to get business funding.
Mm.
And I believe that, and you can do it yourself.
You know what, man? That's so right. That's such a gem that I hope you guys didn't miss that, because everyone, like I said earlier, everyone's looking for the shortcut, the hack, the secret, the play. And like you said, it's going to start with having good personal credit. That's going to be the
Mhm.
easiest way just to make this this whole entire process seamless. And I think a lot of people really overlook that. And don't get us wrong, guys, you still can have a strong company, things of that sort, but again, just so you know, at least having some confidence when you are having this conversation or filling out the application for the funding, if your personal credit is where it needs to be, that's most definitely going to make the process a lot easier for sure. All right. So make sure you guys go ahead and if you haven't already, check out Cal's YouTube channel. He's always talking about not only business funding, which you guys are starting to see a little bit more of that, but having the right credit cards for whatever situation you're looking to go into. Don't just apply blindly, guys. Make sure you all watch these reviews. He has tons of content that's on these types of credit cards. So you most definitely want to make sure that you educate yourself before just running to just go get something. So thanks again, Kyle. We appreciate you for being here today on the show, man.
All right. Thanks, Calvin.